Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I would like to thank Mr. Marcos William, the Chairman of Rajiv Gandhi Award Committee, for inviting me to this meeting on the occasion of the 50th birth anniversary of late Rajiv Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India. I feel I have been honored. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was the harbinger of peace not only of South Asia, but also of the world as a whole. In this context, the topic chosen for today's discussion, in quest of global peace and harmony, is very appropriate for honoring that towering personality, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, whose untimely demise has left a void and a deep scare in our hearts and minds. Ladies and gentlemen, peace is elusive in present times that we are going through. There is hardly any peace and harmony anywhere in the world. The components of human security are not new. Victimization and impunity are as old as time. Infectious disease as old as the plague. Crime, drugs, and terrorism are age-old phenomena. I'm not suggesting that the quest of global peace and harmony is totally unachievable, but that we can at least look at some of the new happenings going on around us that can ease the situation. What is new in this context is globalization. The extent to which our fates have become intertwined with those of people who previously would have remained isolated from us. Also new in the fact that most wars are now in start state. 90% of casualties are civilians, predominantly women and children. This is an alarming situation. Global peace and harmony can be achieved and sustained only if human security can be granted. The conceptual definition of human security in relation to global peace and harmony should take individual human beings and their communities rather than states as the measures of security. Recognize that the security of state is essential, but not sufficient to ensure individual well-being. Consider threats from both military and non-military sources, that is, interstate war, small arms proliferation, human rights violation, crimes, and drugs. Regard the safety and well-being of individuals as integral to achieving global peace and security. Complement, but does not substitute for national security. Brings new tools of the domain of diplomacy, that is internet communications and non-traditional alliances between government, NGOs and INGOs, such as International Committee of the Red Cross. This concept established a new standard for judging the success of international security policies. The ability to protect people, not just safeguard the state. It may even require protecting people from their states. It considers both military and non-military threats to safety and well-being, and it points to human rights, democracy, and human development as key building blocks of security. Is human security is alternative to state security? The short answer is no. States are not antiquated. Orders requires rules, rules requires authority, and authority is exercised on behalf of people by state. In fact, this integrating states appears to be as dangerous to their own citizens as tyrannies. Ladies and gentlemen, the risk of interstate conflict is not going to disappear soon. Just glance at the situation in South Asia, the Korean Peninsula, the South China Sea, Iraq, the Balkans, and Central Africa. Moreover, diplomacy is most effective when backed up by military capabilities. The network of treaties and international institutions is a necessary but not sufficient basis to ensure others and ultimately our own security. The road to peace and harmony involves working with every team member towards mutual goal. Each team member must be involved to set the stage of success. Continuous improvement and teamwork are vital to creating a team that works and stays together. Another aspect that harms us today is terrorism. The use of violence to achieve sadistic and frustrated goals is now a part of our everyday life. We live with it, we are confronted by its manifestations and all of the media. And if we are unlucky, we have experienced it. And yet, despite our natural health, it increases. I think that the problem of terrorism is not going to disappear. And the issues that it raises will increasingly dominate our thinking about our society. Terrorism may not be politically motivated. Criminals abuse it to obtain ransom and for other forms of private gain. The attack of the USA on September 11 left the world in shock and horror. They have given us a new sense of vulnerability, masked by anger and sorrow at the suffering of the Afghan people and anxiety about the uncertain consequence of the UN military strike. The UN has indicated it may yet attack other countries it considers implicated in the September 11 attacks. Meanwhile, we are also witnessing the new specter of biological terrorism. You would agree that it is a frustrating situation where global peace and harmony are a distinct crime. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, democracy is an important factor for fostering peace. Democratic states are usually seen not getting involved in war against other democratic states. Furthermore, according to Amartya Sen, they have a greater capacity for economic development. For example, no famine has ever occurred in a democratic country. The government would simply have to solve the problem before the people began starving. However, the distinction between dictators and democratic leaders is not always clear in terms of their public support or their foreign policies. Dictators are usually adored, at least in the opening years, by most of their countrymen, whereas democratic leaders may have as many critics and admirers. Can democracy be the answer at the end of the quest for global peace and harmony in the world? I would say a big yes, but would add with it that only if that reflects the will of the people or the nation. I would also like to mention that poverty is most often named as the prime causal factor. I would leave it there because of time constraint. Ladies and gentlemen, once we have achieved a greater understanding of the roots of our world crisis, we can do something to solve it. Here we have the opportunity to learn how we can transform our own world crisis into an interesting and positive exercise for us. We should remember always that first is wisdom and then comes action. Otherwise, our acts will leave the world the same as it is now, or even worse. Every human being longs for world peace. However, we only know peace as a preparation for the next war. We want harmony, but all we get in conflict. Please allow me to conclude by saying that we need to understand how harmony and world peace works. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency Mr. Naman Salim Reza. The next speaker for this evening is Dr. Ali Al-Shamari. Dr. Ali Al-Shamari has a PhD in Management from the University of London. He is the Chief Editor and founder of the Middle East Business Review, an international journal that focuses on management and business problems from a comparative perspective. He is also the director of the Middle East Management Consulting Group Limited, a UK-based company handling research and consulting projects for British companies seeking a greater profile in the Middle East. Besides, Dr. Ali is the chairman of the Arab Research Center, a non-profit organization operating in London, Denver, Orlando, Dubai, Lebanon, and Kuwait, engaged in various activities including management and investment consulting, research, and training. Dr. Ali is the Regional Director at Kuwait for International Management Development Association. The association provides a platform for the exchange of ideas, particularly for public policy makers at all levels. In addition to being listed in the international who's who of professionals in the field of strategic management professionals, he is also the Kuwait Country Director of the Arab Management Association and a senior consultant at the School of Management in Royal Holloway, University of London. Dr. Ali Shamari is one of the founder governors of the Kuwait-based Kuwait-India Business Council headed by Mr. Gauri Shankar Khandelwal. We now request Dr. Ali Al-Shamari to present his perspective of the quest for global peace and harmony. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ali Al-Shamari.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Going through the CV of Rajiv Gandhi, his mother and his grandfather, who governed India for almost 50 years, I found interesting facts through his life. I don't think the interest came out from that perspective, but they boil down to two major points serving this seminar. First point is, I noticed throughout his life the support he had for the common man, for the peace for the common man. He looked after the poor people. He always brought them up on board, finding out what they really need, what is their real worries, and that's how this family became so popular in India. And I tried to match this with our history, being a Muslim, bringing to shade to what our Prophet have said about this. The Prophet ﷺ said, you gain no victory or livelihood except through the blessing and innovations of the poor amongst you. In fact, there was a little story, maybe one time the Prophet ﷺ was sitting down with his friend, and the rich man from a very powerful family passed by. Everybody talked about him. Everybody praised him. But after a while, he did not say anything. Later on, a poor man, a common man, passed by. Nobody spoke about him. Nobody paid much attention for him. Then the Prophet ﷺ pointed out that this man is in God's eyes worth the earth full of the previous man. I.e., it is not how we look. It's not who are we in each other's eyes, but it's what God have judged. And at the end of the day, it's really the poor people, it's the common people who are, to pay attention to. Now, the second element I found in his life, in addition to all, being a pilot and serving in so many different fields, trying to bring in India into the computerized world, I found out this man had leadership skills by understanding and by giving away his life for others. And this also brings to my head, to my memory, a little story also on this. There was a little race held in Boston, and it was pointed there that the race, when it took off, one of the people involved in this race fell off. Then again he picked up in speed and then fell off again. Then he sat down and he cried and he just stayed there. One of the people who was running there, he stood up and then went back to him and he helped him and he supported him and he took him all the way to the finish line. People did not understand this, but they clapped anyway. They didn't know for whom they were clapping, but in fact they were clapping for the first man who took this injured person through the finishing line. Between all of this, there are few people who are sacrificing and forgetting about what this world is about. Those are the true leaders. They are the people we are looking for and we are hoping to have on board, governing our states and looking after our interests. I would like to close on the story of peace. I remember the peace back in '84 in Sudan, when I met this mother of 3 children. She escaped southern Sudan from the horror and the terrorism and the wars, and she fled with her 3 children. I remember very well when her first child died. 2 days later, the second child died, and 3 days later, the third child died. She collapsed and she cried and she was looking for peace. This is the kind of misery people are going through, and let me point out here, in the Sharia, in the Islamic law, the terrorism is the most severe punishment is equated to it. It is the most rejected concept in Islam. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to me, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor, for your thought-provoking address. The next speaker for this evening is Major General Miguel Angel Moreno. Appointed by United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan as Force Commander of the UNICOM and Assistant Secretary General, Major General Miguel Moreno of Argentina assumed charge with effect from 1st December 2001. General Moreno has served in the Argentine Armed Forces for 37 years. He has held several command and staff appointments and took command of the 12th Jungle Brigade in 2000. From 1999-2000, he was Assistant Deputy Chief of Staff for Logistics, and from 1996 to 1998, he served as Commander Director of the Argentine Army Military Academy. For the period 1995-1996, Major General Moreno was military advisor to the permanent mission of Argentina to the United Nations. In 1993, General Moreno was commander of the Argentine battalion in Croatia in the United Nations Protection Force. In 1995, he participated as an observer in the deployment of the multinational force headed by the United States in Haiti. He also served the United Nations as a military observer in the United Nations Iran-Iraq Military Observer Group in 1988. General Moreno has gained extensive experience as a United Nations observer and in peacekeeping operations during his career. In 1998, General Moreno was decorated by the government of Hungary with the Vitebsk Military Cross and by the government of Bolivia with the Simon Bolivar Cross. We invite our distinguished guest speaker, General Moreno, whose active role in peacekeeping operation empowers him to authoritatively speak on the quest of global peace and harmony, to now address the gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, General Miguel Angel Moreno.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and honor for me to be here with you this evening. I have been a military man all my working life, and I find no conflict with me, my training as a soldier, and the goal for which we all strive, namely global peace and harmony. I am presently privileged to command the United Nations Iraq-Kuwait Observation Mission, but prior to this, I have spent 4 years of my military service actively participating or in support of the United Nations observers and peacekeeping missions. Like many of my military colleagues, much of my career has been spent training for war, but working for peace. To some, that may sound contradictory, but only by establishing ourselves as a knowledge exponent of the military profession can national armed forces participate with any credibility and effectiveness in helping the international community to deal with areas of potential conflict around the world. The United Nations has provided by troop contributing countries, has employed that military expertise in the pursuit of global peace and harmony in some 41 peacekeeping operations since 1948, 26 of which have been established since 1989. Serving under the United Nations flag as a major component of the broad peace effort of the world body, military personnel from many countries have brought their particular expertise and personal skill to help ease many trouble spots around the world. Examples of which range from monitoring ceasefire arrangements while peace agreements were being negotiated to assist troop withdrawals, establishing buffer zones between opposing forces, and helping to implement final settlements to conflicts. Since 1989, we have witnessed an ever-increasing utility and employment of peacekeepers on missions of ever greater complexity and danger. Whatever the requirements are for a specific mandate issued by the Security Council or General Assembly, UN peace missions are always dynamic and demanding. Peacekeepers have faced both favorable and unfavorable conditions in which to implement their mandate. These include circumstances where political good will exist and relative stability have been achieved after the parties have entered into negotiated settlements, or in situations where the climate is one of continued hostility, obstruction, mistrust, and danger. In the early years, UN peacekeeping operations were deployed in response to interstate conflicts. In the later part of the 20th century, peacekeeping missions were more often directed towards conflict within states, where ethnic strife and the breakdown of civil law and order has placed soldiers wearing the familiar blue helmet or buried in the most harrowing and difficult of conflict situations. Together with his civilian colleagues, UN soldiers have helped promote national reconciliation and respect for human rights, and organize and monitor elections, support to humanitarian operations, extending to participation in the reconstruction of state institutions, have been just some of the additional tasks to fall to the United Nations as the international community has come to address the wider issues of peace building. The role of the organization is made more complex in security and peace and what has become known as cases of the failed state. The price of peacekeeping operation has, at times, been high, both for individuals, many of whom have lost their lives, and for the international community, especially when missions have not always achieved their goals. When United Nations operations have been assigned peacekeeping or peace-enhancing roles without receiving military resources, equipment, and logistical support commensurate to those tasks, individual missions have suffered strains and pressures, and the UN has faced criticism. It is only with the active support of the international community that UN peacekeeping operations can continue to make a major contribution to global peace and harmony. As the force commander, I must express my thanks to the continued support of the international community to the United Nations Iraq-Kuwait observation mission. The mission was formed in the aftermath of the Second Gulf War on 9 April 1991, following the forced withdrawal of Iraq forces from the territory of Kuwait. Today, There are 194 unarmed military observers from 31 contributing countries deployed along the 252 kilometers of the demilitarized zone and the Kawar al-Ahab waterway, running the length of the border between Iraq and Kuwait. Military units from Bangladesh and my own country, Argentina, support the military observers. UN civilian, international and locally recruited staff supports the military component. Altogether, there are 71 countries represented in the mission. In no small way, I believe it is the bringing together of these individuals from so many different countries, working together for a common purpose, that itself encourages a greater understanding and thereby aids the progress to peace and harmony among nations. Two small examples will suffice to illustrate my point. I am from Argentina, and my personal office staff comprises a British and a Russian officer. Who would have thought that possible 20 years ago? And the two officers who run the Force Welfare Office are from India and Pakistan, and describe one another as a best friend in the mission. Our task is to monitor the military zone, to deter and take action to prevent violations of the border and to observe any hostile action from the territory of one state against another. Armed Support Unit of Bangladesh Battalion directly support the military observers deployed on both sides of the border in patrol and observation bases. The military observers conduct 24-hour surveillance of the DMZ and maintain contact with the civilian border police posts on either side of the border. With limited resources, we work to make the DMZ a better and safe place to live. The engineer company from my home country has a program for the clearance of unexploded ordnance, primarily from the Iraq side of the demilitarized zone, that is necessary for our operation. It is a tragic legacy that it is so often that innocent who suffer from the aftermath of armed conflict. My medical unit, which is from Germany, is all too frequently called to redeem life-saving treatment to children injured in explosion in the DMZ. It is heartwarming to me to see how common humanity shines through a shock traffic situation with military and medical staff working in close harmony and with a personal intensity and commitment to save the life of another human being. The situation in DMZ is quite unstable, which is what the situation can be for the most 11 years of its mandate. It is sometimes difficult to contrast what is accepted for the normalcy of life in DMZ with the speculation and political statements that have appeared in the international press in recent months concerning the region. As a military man, it's not for me to comment on what might or might not happen in the future. In the mission, we will continue to carry out our tasks to the best of our ability. There are always new changes to deal with, new challenges to deal with. At present, I am pleased to provide assistance to Mr. Richard Foran, who is the Secretary General's representative, to oversee the return of Kuwaiti National Archives from Iraq. Of course, my first concern is the safety of my personnel, and I am confident that as a military mission we have the expertise and training to cope with unexpected and dangerous situations should they arise. To this end, we keep our contingency plans under review in coordination with concerned agencies in the mission area and UN headquarters. This is really where I began. Military expertise is helping in the goal to bring peace and harmony to the world. Effectively, I feel I'm working to put myself up to the job. In a global society where all nations and people live in peace and harmony, there will be no need for armed forces. Sadly, that day is all too away, and we should be guided by ideals. We must deal with realities, and I believe that I will continue to be a role for national armed forces in working for global peace and harmony for many decades to come. Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention, and I wish the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation and this committee every success in its work for India and the wider global community. Thank you very much.
When I had informed Mrs. Sonia Gandhi about the seminar which we planned to hold today, she was very impressed with the manner in which we had sought and received the support from a cross-section of the community and the speakers. In the years that Shri Rajiv Gandhi passed away, the period before she got involved in politics, she had written a book called Rajiv. And she very graciously sent me the day before yesterday 5 copies of the book, personally signed by her, to be presented to each one of the speakers. Today, I feel honored to make this presentation on behalf of Mrs. Sonia Gandhi to each one of the speakers. To His Excellency Ambassador Swashpavansi.